Welcome to the 1% Doctor Podcast. What separates the good from the great, the standard from the extraordinary? It's mindset, it's execution, and it's the relentless pursuit of growth. I'm Adam Lamb. I'm your host. Welcome to the show. Welcome back to the 1% Doctor Podcast. I'm your host, Adam Lamb. Today, we have a very special guest with an awesome story. He's doing amazing things in medicine, just like most of the docs that we have on the show. Dr. Chelsea Grow. I met her through a mutual friend, Andy Elliott, a good buddy of mine, does some great stuff with his brotherhood, the people he helps and impacts. And I've yet to meet anyone through him who's not an amazing person. And Chelsea's one of them as well. And so I was excited to have her. You know, she's a doc. She's doing some really cool stuff. And I was excited to have her on the show and share her story, like what led her to want to become a doctor and some of the challenges and some of the wins along that path. And we'll talk about what she's doing now and in the future, because she's moving and shaking in the healthcare space. So we're in crazy smart. So buckle up. Welcome to the show, Dr. Chelsea Grow. How are you?
I'm great. Thanks, Adam. Great being here and excited to speak about my story and all that I'm getting into.
Yeah, excited to have you on. Tell us, like, I love hearing the story about like when physicians, like that decision when they're like, oh, I want to be a doc. Like I've had one of the docs I work with, good buddy of mine, he was like out of college. He was like a trainer. He wanted to be like he went to school for kinesiology, and then he's like, I want to be a doctor. And then, like it just, I had a doc on recently too. She became a doctor at 48 years old.
Wow.
She's 56. Kills it.
That's crazy.
But all her business and research background, she's done 18 million this year in her practice. She's a client of mine. But it's like hilarious that how long, so there's all these different stories, right? And so I think it's cool and inspiring to hear. And again, I've had someone who's like, they broke their foot and going to the ER, and they're like, well, I want to do this. This was cool. Like, right?
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit, like when did you decide you wanted to be a doctor and pursue that path?
Yeah. So it was actually the second year in college, and I was always a good student. My parents were teachers, and they pressed school and education big time on me. And even though we didn't have any medical background or training in our family, they always taught me early on, reach for the stars, just work for it, you can do it. And I was in college, I took biology, psychology, business, wasn't really sure what direction I was going to go in. And I actually fell in love with psychology the more I got into it. And so between biology, which really enjoyed that, and the psychology, I decided to go to med school to be a psychiatrist, or I thought.
Tell me, back up a
That's
little
how
bit.
I actually got in the path.
Where did you grow up? Like what area?
Scranton, Pennsylvania, at the Northeast.
You're not there now. And we'll get to that.
No, we're on the
But you grew up in
Gulf Coast.
Scranton. You have some good friends from Scranton. That's cool. And so
Yeah,
where did you go to
lots of
school at?
PCOM, Philadelphia College of Osteopathic Medicine.
Okay. And but prior to that, because that's
King's College in
So was there like
Wilkes-Barre.
I don't know if there's a proximity, sometimes like that can change things too.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's in the Northeast, small college, about 2 hours from Philadelphia. Lots of
Nice.
snow.
And so you're like, I want to be a doc. And so I'm going to medical school.
That was it. Once I decided, again, I love psychology. I love the mind. I like knowing how and why people tick and why people do what they do. And for me, it's natural. I always tell people I'm a right brain girl living in the left brain world. I'm very intuitive, and I can read the room and feel without even trying, kind of thing. It's just something that I've always had. And fell into psychiatry until I went into med school. I loved every elective. I was the nerdy kid that loved everything: cardiology, infectious disease, all of it. And then neurology. And then I fell in love with neurology. The pathways, neurotransmitters, the geeky, nerdy stuff, love it. That was it. So, and with neurology, I mean, there's so much overlap between neurology and psychiatry. You can't separate the two. They go hand in hand. So, and that's really what happens in my practice. So much of it that people come to me with isn't really neurologic. It might not even be anything else, in the typical box, cardiology or GI. It's more of their emotional status
Mm.
is not in place and they have physical
I
symptoms.
mean, anxiety, panic attacks. I mean, think of those kind of people that's like,
Yes,
it's a self-stimulate. Like you're not going into AFib. You're not having a heart attack or stroke. Like there's something going on from an emotional standpoint.
exactly.
Once you can,
Yes.
and again, we want to drug it all the time. But there's a lot of ways through the psychology or psychiatry side that's like, and I
Yes.
was had that conversation with something like let's say Xanax, for example, right? It's like, you can have anxiety, you take a Xanax, all of a sudden you're like, how are you? I'm good. And it's like, what
Right.
changed? Nothing except for
Right.
your interpretation of the space. And so like you can actually teach people to connect into that space of like, I'm calm. I can do a little breath work. I can just reframe my mind. And then you don't necessarily need the drug. Now maybe you have the drug if something, but this stuff's always interested me too, obviously. And so it's cool to hear you share on that. So after medical school, like where did you like what'd you get into first?
So I moved to DC. I went to George Washington for neurology. And then I almost stayed there, actually. I was going to stay on staff with them. But the next decision was fellowship. And I stayed on for electrophysiology, EMG, EEG. So I did a year of that. But of course, while I was there, I also got in 1 year, I did 3 fellowships. Like it's unheard of, but I did three. I did
Great.
headache and sleep medicine and electrophysiology in the last year. So I came out with three subspecialty board exams, and then I was looking in the Northeast, but it just wasn't clicking. So I became more intentional. I love the sun. I love the water and the warm weather. I started looking in the South. They called me about a job in coastal Mississippi, which I was nice to the recruiter because I knew him. I'm like, Mississippi, I don't know about this, but I
Yeah,
mapped it
not a
out.
lot of people think I want to go move to Mississippi, right? Like
Right.
even you saying it, I'm like, no one ever says I want to
Never,
Mississippi. That's funny.
never. So my friends and my family are like, are you
It's fun
sure?
to spell though. That's about it. But there's places in Mississippi they're awesome, especially on like you said the
Yeah.
coastal
It's coastal.
Mississippi.
It's an hour from New Orleans. So I said, I'm going to try it. I moved down here and it was a month before Katrina and stuck it out. Crazy times. But, I was here 20 years. I've seen so much change. When I first moved here, that was right in the beginning when they were employing docs. Like everybody was private practice back in those days. You joined private practices. And I didn't want to join a practice where I had to work another 5, 10 years and build up to some partnership. I said, no, I worked too hard for too long. I have too much invested. I want to make a difference. I don't want to make money. I have loans to pay. And the model that I started out with worked, but so much has changed over the years. It's just, they employed everybody now pretty much locally. And I mean, the system's just night and day different in general, not just here, but
So talk a little bit. I mean, for the listener that's not fully educated on neurology and who you help and the scope of it, like talk a little bit more about like patients you would see, patients you would help, challenges, stuff like that. Talk a little bit about that.
sure. So typical practice would be in the clinic, seizures, follow up on stroke patients, epilepsy, sleep apnea, insomnia, neuropathy. I do a lot of headache, chronic migraine diagnosis, neurodegenerative disorders like Alzheimer's, Parkinson's. I mean, really, we run the gamut of it in the outpatient. And then I niche down the last couple of years. I do a lot of injecting for Botox for spasticity, for chronic migraine, for neck pain. And that's probably my biggest niche right now in the outpatient, and I do telemedicine still. And then we cover the ER, which is stroke, acute seizures, and then coma and mental status change in the ICU. So it's, pretty much either outpatient that's pretty niched or the hospital, which is, I mean, very acute issues.
Yeah, you never. So do you do rounds at the hospital still now? Is that something that you'll because it's like working with
I
ER?
do, but I hired a PA, so I weaned back on that. Probably the last 3.5 years, I was more intentional about what I didn't know where exactly I wanted to be 5, 10 years from now. I just knew it wasn't where I was. I was kind of getting a little, I don't want to say restless was, where things were going, but I wasn't clear on what just yet my path was. So I started hiring. I got an NP, I got a PA. The PA does most of the hospital right now. I do some of it, especially complicated cases. And I still take call 10 days out of the month. So I still do that. But I kind of wean back so much on the hospital, focus on the outpatient, and carve out my path, which, I started a wellness business 2.5 years ago. Started with just doing Botox. I trained physicians for over 15 years for Allergan. I'm like, why am I not doing this on my own? Right. But I never had worked on my own outside of the hospital. So started a business with just Botox. It led to fillers. And then the more people came in, they'd ask me, well, do you do hair loss? Do you do weight loss? Do you do supplements? And I'm just in my brain, I'm always thinking, I'm like, okay, they're feeding me what they need. Okay, I need
Right.
to be going in this direction. And that's kind of how it all started. Something that just was a side Botox in addition to neurology became something bigger. And in the last year, I just, aligned with everything else that I had going on, which was a whole transformation I look at this past year spiritually, where I'm in life and my purpose. I started going outside the box, doing things I don't normally do, getting myself uncomfortable because I realized for 20 years I've been in the same identity. The things that I now teach, I was in it. I didn't realize my entire identity was locked up into the neurologist, mom, and I didn't know again what exactly the path was, but I'm like, I have got to get myself uncomfortable. So
I
I
love
started
that.
traveling alone.
Well, and this is really the story of so many physicians. I don't know how old you are, but it's like that, like maybe late 30s it starts, but like definitely like mid 40s where they're like, I like I don't want to do what I'm doing anymore. And I don't know what
Yeah,
else to do. And the reality is there's so many things for you to do because you're a licensed physician. There's businesses you own that a regular person can't. There's stuff you can do. There's stuff you can learn, right? Like and that's the other part too, is so many physicians come out of medical school and they're like, okay, done learning forever. No, dude, there's still a lot more that you can learn should you choose, right? And so you were faced with people who are like, what about hair? What about hormones? What about weight loss? And you're like, well, let me figure it out, right? Because you know enough
exactly.
to be dangerous and go fast, but then it's like continue to refine those skills. And then a lot of it is learning business.
Right. That's right. They don't teach that in med school. So a
Right.
lot of us come out, especially if you want to dive into something outside medicine. A lot of us wanted to or still want to. A lot of people I work with, they'll hold on to it because of security. Even though there's burnout, they're exhausted, the system, there's more charting. I mean, I could go on, but that's all they know. And so their entire existence identity is tied to that. And they're scared because they don't have the security or the business sense to leap out and do something different. And I get that. I was too. It's like I'm not a risk taker, but I started weaning myself in and pulling back at the same time. And that's what I've been doing. And, just my time frame from 3 to 6 months to a year, I keep shortening it, so I can, because I'm like right there to do all the other things, which is, ultimately just to be free of location. And, I want to do a lot more and reach more people, make more
And that
impact.
was something that was important to me. Actually, I just wrote a new book, the 7-Figure Practice Playbook. So it's like it's a book that I wrote that teaches a lot of, like, there's about 21 chapters of principles on business. Because when I started, I'm not a doctor like you, but I wanted to build a platform that did a certain thing. And then I had to find docs to explain to them how we're going to do telemedicine in 2012. Like, a lot of people didn't know it. Here's how to do it.
Yeah.
Here's how we're going to do it. And so it's like started unlocking the, like, wait a minute. Oh, and so then even though when COVID hit, telemedicine became way more popular. It really shifted a lot of my focus to consulting and helping other docs build stuff. Basically, like, I'm like, you tell me what you wish you could be doing, how you want to do it, where you want to do it, and we can build something that does that,
Right.
right? Like our friend, we talked about the sleep doc. Like, we're totally reframing an idea of what he does and what he wants to do. And I'm like, there's a way to do it. We can just build it, right? And then you go through the process of compliance and make sure everything's legal and buttoned up. And you figure it out from the service. What's the experience I want the patient to have? What's the work-life balance I want to have? And you said hiring a PA. I mean, most of the docs I work with, by the time we hit 12 to 18 months, they're rarely seeing patients. They're picking and choosing who they want to see. And let the folks that they've trained, the mid-levels below them, to see kind of the mundane day-to-day stuff to keep things going. And that's where, like I mentioned, that one doc who did 17, I think, like, or 18 million this year. Well, she's got 9 providers on her team. Like, they're doing the day-to-day stuff. She's teaching, training, coaching, leading so that that can be done. Right. And so there's just a reframe, because some docs are like, I got to do it all. No, you don't.
Right.
You can, but you can only do so much. Or we start teaching and training a team, building SOPs, systems, processes, and building, a way for others to do that work that you do real well, so that you don't have to do it. And then you get to have a life by design, right? Which it sounds like you're in the process of building.
Exactly.
What do you think some of the next steps for you, that you kind of discovered? Talk a little bit about this path of, like, you had that, like, aha moment that, like, woke you
Hmm.
up, and that, what
Yeah.
happened, and what gone into that.
Yeah. So I was working, building, the hospital was expanding, and I just put more and more into developing pretty much the entire coast satellite clinics. I was hands on. I learned really quick that I can do it. And so I saw what I was capable of doing. So I put more and more time into it. Well, I was working crazy hours, and then my health took a hit. I ended up having, a surgery, which shouldn't have been complicated. Was long story short, it was about 6 months, 6, 7 months downtime. And most people, I mean, when I say down, in bed down, like couldn't, I was in bed. And most people were like,
How long
how are you
ago was
not
that?
losing your mind?
How
Excuse
long
me?
ago was that?
It was the end of 23
Okay, so, like, just a couple years ago.
or
Got
mid
it.
20. It was the end of 22 going into, yeah, June of 23. So yeah, I mean, not too long,
So you
but
probably were not able to work or anything then, right?
well, I did, because that goes back to I'm a workaholic and I have to work, and that kept me going crazy, and just shifted my whole, not at that point it didn't shift it, but later looking back when I went on this journey within, realizing what I was doing, and just to keep my sanity that whole time when I was down, I started a telemed business when most people would be, but I did that because that was my coping or survival strategy, right? Just to
Yeah,
keep
you
my mind
canceled the
busy and
pity
create.
party, and yeah, cancel the pity party and go into build mode. Right. It's awesome.
Build, yeah, and, got all the CME credits. I was gonna take, the obesity board examination. I built aesthetics. I built all these things while I was down, which is crazy
It's
looking
amazing.
back.
It's amazing.
And so when I finally got life going again, it was strange. I was so grateful, but I realized the things that like, even the things I enjoy, the water and the boat, the places I used to go to with friends, weren't enjoyable anymore. Almost like I didn't, and I couldn't put my finger on it. It was like a detachment. So, like we go down the checklist of what is this, right? And I am bad as a doctor going to doctors. So I think I'm going to figure it out myself, right? So I went down this journey, which I'm glad I did. I went down all the things because I didn't know what it was that I needed. If it was, I needed career change, was it a relationship? I didn't know. And so I went down the road, and what I found was basically this whole world that I didn't know existed. It was literally like a spiritual awakening, a midlife awakening, whatever we want to call that. People might say it's, they call it midlife crisis or different names, dark night of the soul. It's when you wake up and you can't force it, but usually when you hit rock bottom or something is forced on you because you won't be still. So God says, okay,
Yeah,
stop.
but God's gonna get your attention. Either you're gonna listen, or he's gonna whack you in the head with something to get your
I
attention.
believe that wholeheartedly because I was too stubborn and too driven to stop. And I have 2 boys. And thank God that happened to me because that downtime, it, it uprooted something in me that I didn't know was there. And it's almost like if I describe it as lenses on your glasses are hazy and they're foggy and you wipe them off. And suddenly, I mean, you're the same
You can
person, but
see.
the world is suddenly very different.
Yeah.
And it's that awakening, and it's regardless of what people's religion, it's faith, and they're knowing there's a God that is literally speaking to you. And it's all the things that we're not really even taught in medicine, but about meditation
Well,
and
in total, like, almost shunned, right? Like, the
yes,
almost like it's not even not taught, but like a negative thing. of
Yeah, I think it gets
understanding
woo woo.
how we spiritually heal, how we're created by a creator to heal ourselves, right? Now, look, you're hit by a car, you get some broken bones, you're gonna need some stuff, right? But there's a part of
Right.
that, like we just talked about the anxiety example, of like you can learn to calm that. Like if should you
Absolutely.
choose to unlock that. But what happens is a lot of people have to go into that depth, into that darkness. I joke with even a lot of the docs I work with. I'm a pit walker, meaning I will walk down into that darkest pit that you're in, that you've been to,
Yes.
those things, that hidden box in the attic, and we unlock that. We open it up, we talk through it, and realize like, holy crap, that thing has held me back. It could be something like my parents had so much fear around debt, and we had this thing, we lost our house, and so now I'm scared to take risks. And it's like that ain't you, man. Right? Like, like that's not
Yeah.
that. Like, and it's like they were let that go. There's a great book by Darren Hawkins, I think, called Letting Go. You check it out. You'll love it. But it's a really, really awesome book. I think he's a psychiatrist too that wrote it. And learning like we can let go of certain things so we can pick up greater things, right? Giving ourselves
Yes.
permission and having the faith. And there's that part of faith, like you said, of like knowing that God is for me, not against me. Like the only thing that's really against me is a version of me that I need to shake off, right? And again, when you go through, that's why physicians, I think have such a heart for, because wired so long for performance, get the best grades, MCAT, like all these kind of things, like do be the best, be the best, be the best, be the best, be the best. And so when you're always trying to be the best, you play safe. And when you're always trying to play safe, you miss opportunity because there's like risk and what's this and what are they going to think or what are my parents or what are my colleagues. And it's like, dude, you got one shot at this life and that next breath is not promised. So stop and figure what is it? What do you want to do? What's going to light your soul on fire? Because when it does, when your soul is lit on fire, you're going to be able to help other people potentially do the same thing there, not to mention all the other things, right? And so I love
Right.
that. Hearing, I know, I see it in the eyes of people that have had the aha
Hmm.
moment, and it's powerful and it's exciting. I did too. I was 33 when I woke up. I was like, "What the hell am I doing with this life? What am I doing?"
Yeah.
And then it just changed the trajectory of where I was going. All
Yeah.
right.
You can't go back. You can't unsee. I try to explain it to people because you're a different energy then when you show up, and the people that you used to be comfortable around suddenly feel your energy is different, and you become literally a different energy and presence. And it really is letting go of all, I think of it like an onion, letting go of all the layers, and it's basically going back to your core. I always think of it as who you're born to be, your soul essence, who you were when you took your first breath. That baby, that was you when you were pure before the world. The
Yes.
Freud and Carl Jung, sense of self and survival strategies formed your identity that you never chose. And now you have a life which is this big, on paper it looks great, but you are stuck in an identity that is holding you hostage, and you're stuck in this cage that you have the key to. Like,
Yeah.
you
And I
can get
kind of
out at any point.
I articulate that as like, think of it like this box. Like you talked about, we live in this box, this frame, and that frame is made of like rules, laws, beliefs, and you could say fears, but some of these other things that create this box. And what happens is then we just stay within that box. Now the box might warp and expand, and because as we get older, there's a part of people think their personal growth is dictated based on their age, right? There's just things like you and I both like, as we could say as a woman, like hormones might change, and like it's like, well, but that you don't change just by time. Like you should change by choice. And the choice of change that happens here in the mind first. And then as we speak it or as we physically do it, it actually changes our soul. And then what
Yeah.
happens to your point, I can totally relate to where you can be around people you used to hang out with and you're like, this sucks. I don't have anything in common with them. I don't want to have this conversation anymore. Like even I quit drinking alcohol like 9 years ago, and it's like sitting around my friends that just want to sit around and drink and watch a football. And I'm like, this is insanity. I'm wasting so much time. I'm not getting my soul is not being fed because I'm not, like we're having a soul feeding conversation right now. And we're not taught to have those. And part
Right.
of that too is our inability to be vulnerable with others and ourselves, right? So it's like like some it's crazy. We can hide uncomfortable conversations from ourselves, and that could be the scariest stuff to unlock. But once we do, and you can let it go and you're like, that wasn't that big of a deal. Oh my gosh, I feel so much more free. Oh, I see, like you said, the lens becomes more clear. And it's like you can't unsee it. And then it's like you can try to ignore what's possible. You can try to ignore the thing that you want to go do, but you're like, there's a fire that gets lit and it's powerful. And then you just keep giving it oxygen and burns into a whole new thing.
Absolutely. That's exactly it. And I'm big into not only just psychology, but energy and the law of resonance and quantum. And the way I like to think about it, if you imagine neuroscience, psychology, energy, spirituality, and ancient wisdom, and it's like in a blender, right? Everything that I have experienced the last couple of years is that it's the spiritual awakening, remembering who you are, who you're born to be. And when you become, it's not even becoming, it's remembering because you don't have to do anything. We're taught we have to hustle, grind, or be tougher in the mind, push and grit. And, especially men, they have to go that direction or, their identity, their worth, and everything's tied to it. Women go in their masculine in that, right, on that road. But we don't have to do anything. When you go back, you find your purpose and who you are, you just are, and you don't have to
Yes.
do a thing. And so they talk about quantum leaping and all these things and law of attraction. It's literally when you let go of all those low vibrational energy traps that we have, shame, guilt,
Which are the
they're
lowest. Guilt and
the
shame is the lowest
lowest,
emotion. And
the
people don't understand that.
lowest. And they hide in
Anger,
us.
I'd rather you be pissed off than feel
Yeah,
like a piece of crap
that's
because
right.
anger is better, right? Now there's higher things like oneness and love and acceptance, right? Like
Hmm.
just people acceptance. Like, hey, so I forgot to do something. It's like, are you gonna or I said something I shouldn't have, or I messed something up. I'm not supposed to hold guilt and shame. I'm supposed to acknowledge, like, yeah, I could have done that better, but I'm gonna accept I made a mistake. I love myself. I'm not perfect. I'm just going to move on. And so, and I share this with people. And one of my goals with the folks I coach is like eradicating guilt and shame from an emotion that you feel. And people don't understand it. Like, how do you not? And it's like, why would you want to feel that emotion? Why would you
Right.
want someone else to feel that emotion? Right. I would never, ever, ever want someone I love or anybody for that matter, but specifically because of me to feel guilt and shame because I know what a horrible emotion that actually is and
It
how
is.
bad it is for us spiritually too. And people don't understand it's not taught, right? Like think of the education you've had and you had to go learn this stuff beyond it.
Right.
Isn't it
It's,
crazy? Like, and you're
it
in a
is.
place where it's like you would think you would be the master at it just through going to school, but you don't learn it in school. You're taught to almost shut it off and ignore it. And then
They
once
do. They
you
tell us, in medicine, if you have these physical symptoms, and this has happened, I can't even tell you how many times in my office, patients will come in with symptoms, men and women, but women tend to, again, have a lot more somatic symptoms than men. But that's not always true. They just hide it more. But they'll have tests that are normal. Their MRI is normal, their blood work's normal. And I see the look on their face and they're upset. And I already know what that means. They almost want something to be wrong so it will explain their pain or their anxiety or why they feel so bad, right? And that's when I go into it's just normal, intuitive for me to say, it's just because it's not on a test doesn't mean, that you're not there's something wrong, but it's something else. We can't measure it, but again, I have like a 10-minute visit, right? It's your alignment. Your life, your identity, and how you're living is not aligned with your soul's purpose. That is the root of so much of us. We're living a path that is not ours. It's a survival response that we learned at a young age, maybe because we had to, because of some trauma or whatever else, or we had to prove our worthiness by becoming the best of the best, all these things. But you've created a life that you weren't born to have. So your soul is screaming. And I have a whole
yes,
thing that I'm actually writing a book, but on mental health, which is dear to my heart just because psychology again goes back to those roots, is that I feel that number one, we label way too much now, more than
yes.
ever. Everybody's got a
Well,
label.
I quit drinking alcohol. People are like, "Oh, you're sober." I'm not sober. I'm not sober. I wasn't an
Yeah,
alcoholic. Like I don't, and whatever serves anyone's path, but I don't believe in that. I don't believe I'm I'm just somebody who doesn't drink alcohol because I chose not to. I don't attach to any of those things because those things don't serve me. Right. And so
right,
being able to break those things down, who I was, again, I'm a born again Christian. And so it's like my past prior to Christ, that dude's dead. That dude doesn't even exist. And so, like, we can talk about Christianity and a lot of Christians, but they're not teaching and preaching that. Like, why are you still
that's
carrying
right.
the sin of your past or the guilt and the shame of your past or all these things when if you say you're set free and you believe in the Bible right here on my desk that like if you believe that that is true, why have you not actually released it? Why are you not letting go? Why are you not moving that direction? And those kind of conversations should be happening more in the church, and to help people
Yes.
be set free. And once you do and you can, and just again going up to that acceptance level, and just this is who I am, and then discovering it and being okay with I'm going to try it, and I'm going to be wrong, or it's like dating the wrong person, or going to a bad restaurant, whatever. Like it should be that simple. If it's not life, we have so many things. It's like if you and I are both single, and I'm like, oh, I like Chelsea. I think she's cute. Maybe I want to ask her out, but oh, what's if she says no? And you get all this stuff in your head. It's like, dude, just go ask.
Right.
If you don't ask, yeah, if you don't ask, it's 100% no. And then you have the last thing you want to do is stack guilt or stack regret, the amount of
Right.
regret that people
Regret. That's
and,
another,
and
yeah, heavy
go
pain.
interview anybody who's on their deathbed, and 100% of them are going to talk about the things that they regret, or at least 95% of them will talk about the things they regret way more than the peace and the joy and the love that they experienced and the opportunity and discovery. And that's what we're called to do. That's how we're built. We're built and designed to do that. But most of us are blocking that because of the fear or, like you said, trauma, things from our past, stories that we're telling ourselves, right? Between that wall of stories, beliefs,
Mhm.
rules, and laws. And it's like, well, I can't wear that, or I can't do that, or I have to go do this because I'm this or that. Dude, that's not real. It's not
It's
real.
not,
And when
no,
you can release it, you just go without friction. And it's like, I think it's like a Holy Spirit flow. Like you said, like
oh, it is. Yeah.
hearing from
You
God.
feel it.
You're just in the flow of what God's calling you to do. And to me, there's nothing greater than that. But it's so hard to explain to someone that doesn't understand that. And it requires massive surrender, massive letting go, and
Yes.
humility. Not humility of like, oh, I'm just, just me. No, that's fake humility. I'm talking about humility of like, you don't have it all figured out, and that there is a power greater than you that designed you. That's the reason you're breathing and living and thinking. And when you submit to experience more of that wisdom and unlocking more of the realness of that, the life you're able to live is so much greater, so much more powerful.
It's a completely different experience and people feel it. And I'm learning more and more as I go through this. I used to be one that would want to, even in personal life, I want to help so much. I want to fix people. I want to be the one that can shake them. With this phase in my life, it's not even about that. It's about embodying it. Whatever it is, I know it's hard to describe or put a word to it. It's like a feeling sometimes. I try to explain it to people and it doesn't do it justice. But by embodying it, that's all you need to do because then we have to meet people where they are. We can't change them if they're not ready. But by bleeding and embodying what you believe in who you are, people, maybe a year from now, they'll remember that and subconsciously they'll come back and, they're following your lead whether you realize it or not, and those that are ready, that are waiting for that shake or wake up, you never know when you're meeting that one person that those words at that moment says them, and it's so many people are suffering in silence now more than ever. Our
Yeah.
mental health world is not great. We don't do justice to our patients. We just don't.
And that's where, again, I think there's this big shift that's going away from the traditional way of doing it to just that human to human interaction. It was funny. I had a client of mine who I started working, his marriage was falling apart. I didn't know, he's doing successful business wise. And then it's like, again, guilt and shame will keep us from sharing the thing that we need to share the most. And then he was sharing something about like he blew up at his wife and this, and I felt in my spirit, I was like, I want to talk to your wife. He's like, huh? I'm like, yeah, I want to talk to her. So I talked to her, and this is a woman who's in fight or flight, scared to death, like thinks the marriage is over, doesn't know who's coming home. Is the happy guy coming home, the stressed guy coming home, the crazy guy coming home, blah, 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 blah. And I'm talking to her, I'm like, oh my gosh, this woman is dying inside. This is a wonderful
Yes.
woman, a strong woman, a great woman. And she is scared to death. And I was like, hey, we're splitting our time moving forward. I'm going to spend half of the time that we, from a coaching standpoint with you and half with your wife. In 6 weeks, totally helped flip the marriage because I was able to take them into these depths of conversation of deep, deep stuff that they've never shared with anybody, that they've never shared with each other. And it was awesome when, his wife is like, we've had more progress with you in 6 weeks than 2 years of marriage counseling. Right. And it's like, which is awesome. But, and again, I'm not a trained therapist or counselor, and I'm not poo-pooing on any of those people. But my concern was, I want to get to the root of this problem. And I'm going to ask questions that might be uncomfortable. And when you start crying or I see the pain unlock, I'm not going to stop. We're not going to, I may let you be, but we're going to go to the place we need to go to unlock what we need to unlock so that you can come out of where we're at. And then all of a sudden it's like, I'm detached from the things that because it's like, my mom always did that with my dad, or like whatever the thing might be. And it's like, dude, that story sucks. It doesn't serve you. And then all of a sudden it's like, I'm going to stop doing that. And all of a sudden they stop doing it. And then we create these new triggers. We create these new habits, these new behaviors, this new version
Mhm.
of us, not because it's been self-created. Like you said earlier, we're just reattaching to who we actually are, who we're actually called to be, who we're born to be, not the version of us that has been scarred, abused. And there's people that's like, well, I don't really have any trauma. Listen, man, trauma could be your dad saying everything was too expensive. And so like you have this belief about money. Like that's can be, I'm not saying you have to be raped or something to have trauma. Like you can still have trauma that creates stories, that creates walls, that creates limitations. That could be like, oh, every time your wife buys something, you make her feel like guilty. And then you're wondering why you don't have a good sexual relationship. Well, because the entire time she feels judged, unworthy, a bad person, doing the wrong thing. And you don't even mean to do it. You're just doing what you saw your dad do. And he
That's
didn't
right.
mean to do it because he's only doing the same thing that his dad told him. Like, and it's like when we can unpack this stuff, and then people, like you said, and then it's like the lenses are clear and they're like, oh, yeah, stop doing that. And then we create triggers to attach that behavior of like, so we can turn it real quick. We don't have guilt and shame. We just go, oh, wait, that's not who I am. Make the turn. Right.
That's
And
right.
then powerful transformation can happen.
It's amazing. And you say trauma. So here's interesting story. This is about me. When I was 13, so in Pennsylvania, I was out with friends in the summer, and we were out, and of course, there's mountains everywhere. Out with friends, and was out later than I should be. And myself and one of my friends fell down this huge embankment. It was probably 20 feet high,
How old were
and
you?
fell and broke my back.
How old were you?
So, what was that?
How old were you then? Oh, wow. Okay.
13. So talk about it's interesting because you brought that up, and our mind is again, I look at myself and I realize how much our mind can block things, and I'm thinking, I'm so good at seeing it in everybody else, but I almost fooled myself or tricked myself into stories that I didn't even realize it until, again, the last couple of years. Fell traumatic, 13, broke my back. I was away from my parents, for gosh, it was like 3, 4 months. My mom had 2 babies to take care of, my younger sisters. And I really don't remember a whole lot, which looking back probably is that trauma
Yep.
response.
Yep.
But I never even I never even gave it any weight. I never talked about it. Or when people would ask me, I'm so used to it that I get asked all the time, oh, what happened to you? Like for my entire life. So I tell them the story.
And for
And
people that
I
don't know,
always
you are in a wheelchair, right? And
yes.
you live and operate in it. But it again,
Yep.
and I kind of love that you don't, because I've never heard you talk about it. So I'm glad to hear you share and open up. But it
Yeah.
doesn't sound like it's something that in your mind has held you back. It's not a
It
crutch.
didn't.
You're not a
It didn't at
victim.
all. But I almost blocked it so much that I didn't think it was a trauma. Until
Mm.
recently, I'm thinking, because I'm doing all this work on myself. And by doing the work on myself, I've learned so much about me that I knew I blocked and didn't know was there. I had no idea that that trauma was there, like embedded in my body and my nervous system.
Yeah.
Literally, I was living in survival. And then my mom died when I was 18. My dad was in a car accident. I mean, boom, 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 all these crazy traumatic things as a teenager. And I was basically, I moved to med school. I was probably 18. Well, now I was like 20, 21. Moved away on my own. And so looking back, it was, everybody sees me as strong. And I always got that, you're so strong, you could do anything, you're, all these things. But I never really felt it. Like I always knew I could do anything I put my mind to. Like that, I do believe. There's no doubt. If I say I'm going to do
You
it,
can have
I'm going to
grit,
do
you
it.
can have a chip on your shoulder, you can say, hey, and maybe it could be overcompensating, right? You could have been in
Yes.
subconsciously in a place of like, I physically can't do that. So mentally, I'm going to blow you guys out of the water with all the schooling and the skills and the grades, and watch me. I'm going to go blow everybody out. But like, we can have that
Yeah.
stuff, which here, there's a part of that performance. My whole life, people told me I couldn't do stuff. Right. And that chip in my shoulder created a fire to get me to go do it. The challenge is the fire from whether it's fear or frustration is you have to go back to that to get the fuel, right? So then I
Yes.
have to go back and it's like I got to go talk to my, let's say, father-in-law, and he's got to say something to piss me off, and now I'm going to go build another multi-million-dollar company versus the belief in myself of like, dude, I'm worthy. I'm awesome. I serve an amazing God. Like, I love who I am. I am smart. I am intelligent. I got the track record. I don't need to go back to the pain to propel me. I can go to the possibility to pull me forward, right? And it took me a
Yes.
long time to learn that. But teaching that again, because it's a lot of, like, you and I know Andy, right? Like, a lot of what he builds, a chip in his shoulder of, being a loser, people calling him this, you didn't have that, you were poor, and that chip. And then you get to a point where you're like, dude, I got to keep going back to that pain to propel me forward. That's
It's
exhausting.
exhausting.
And versus the power that can pull you forward down the path of possibility, that's exciting, and that's like, "Ooh, what if?" It's optimistic. I get chills talking about it because that
Yeah.
transformation for me, I was like, "Oh," and then the weight, the frustration,
Yes.
the anger is gone, and it's all about, "I can do this. I can do anything." And someone will be like, "What about that? What about," like, I can't even respond to your negativity. I know where I'm going. Like, because faith comes into it, right? The faith of that.
Absolutely.
It's amazing. And it's like, how do you teach someone that? Right? Like, how do you, and the only way I know how to do it is like the one-on-one coaching stuff that I do and some of the content.
Yeah.
And it's the most powerful thing we should all be
Always
learning.
powerful because that's actually what I'm getting into. So my first course that I'm doing is actually I fell into it because of what we're talking about. And the last year, I'd be in these meetings, and a lot of them are, for whatever reason, if they were more business, they were male dominated rooms, right? And a lot of very masculine men. But the
Hmm.
rooms I would be in, they're very intentional. So it would be communities where they would be, that masculine energy, but they were very connected to their heart. They were very open and or faith-based. So those rooms is where I was woke up and felt things that I never even knew was really even a thing, and it was vulnerability in the room. If you feel that and you're with a group of like-minded in a community, whatever you choose, like-minded people that are there with their hearts are open and you're being accepted, I always say in your sloppy, messy, imperfect ways, let it all out, and they still accept you, no judgment, there's a healing that takes place in that room.
Yes.
And that there's no words for that. And so I started to see how many men were, again, like suffering in silence. And you never know. Women, we tend to, we'll be more vocal, we'll cry, we'll do all those things, right? But the guys are just silent and you never know. And so that woke up to me a lot being in these rooms. And I have two boys, and I'm very much, I tell them all the time, express yourself. We know that boys talk less than girls even growing up. They speak in lower vocabulary. They're more physical, but men have to be taught emotions are normal and how to deal with them. And it's okay to be open and vulnerable because in those rooms, that's where you heal. It's not in I don't say a doctor's office, maybe sometimes, but you don't need another, label, another pill. You need to be around people that can let you be you and accept you and,
That's safe.
help you along. That's all it takes.
Yeah, and I do a lot, like, that's my favorite. I was Thursday and Friday was in Miami with a group of guys, same thing, right? And we have these groups, and if you come in there and you're like, "Yeah, here's how big my company is," and does all this, we're gonna smash your freaking ego because that's not the game we're playing here. No one cares. This isn't a peeing contest. This is
Mhm.
an opportunity to be vulnerable and share in a safe place and realize you're not alone, right? Like, we go around the, who else is blah 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 and had their wife that, and everybody raised it. It's like, oh, like, look, dude, you're not alone. But we're not going to talk about how much money you make. We don't care about the car you drive. Like, we care about, like, what is the biggest thing that's holding you back emotionally, or from, like, getting people, men, to be vulnerable. Sometimes I'm asked to come into Bible studies. It's hilarious. And sometimes I'm asked to never come back because I won't sit in a happy clappy environment. I can't do it. Like, find
Yeah,
someone else. God has
right.
not taught me what he's taught me and brought me down a path. I'm only hungry for transformation. And it doesn't mean we sit around and boo-hoo. The same thing though can happen is you get in those groups like a, again, not knocking anything, but like a AA circle or something, wherever the whole time everybody's just talking about pain. And it's like, dude,
Right.
we got to talk about progress and we've got to talk about breakthrough. We got to talk about next level. Cause I don't respond well to those environments either. Like it's like, dude, I want to jump off a bridge. And some churches are like that, where it's like,
Right.
oh, everybody came in here today and they're hurting. I'm like, no, I'm not. I'm not. I'm killing it. I'm doing well. Is
Right.
anyone else in here in victory? Because
They're
I
almost
walk.
upset with you for it. They're like,
Yeah,
"What's
oh,
wrong with
for
you?
sure.
Why are
No,
you
they are.
happy?"
No, that's it. So it's like those
Yeah.
the challenges. The rooms are like it's all fake, or it's just all dark. And
Yes.
being able to have create the space in between where it's just like, dude, let me tell you where I lost my crap on my wife the other day. And I said this thing and it was so dumb and stupid. But look, here's what we did is usually this happens. And this time this happened. So I responded differently because I've been doing this work and like all of a sudden, and then you're giving other men permission in that situation to share those same things, learn those same things versus like, yeah, work out everything's like, I mean, I've walked into two Bible studies with these guys who are talking and I'll stop and I'm just like, hey, Bill, how often you and your wife having sex? Right. And all of a sudden the whole like record stops because I'm like, guys, we're going to talk about intimacy. And it isn't about the sex. It's not, I don't care about that part of the conversation.
Right.
What we're going to start talking about is what the challenges are that they've let turn their wife into this masculine, locked up woman with a sword and a shield
That's
because you
right.
act like a bonehead all the time. And so you might get some once a week sympathy sex to check the box, but you don't have a connection with your wife. You guys aren't like we're literally, the Bible says, to be one, right? And most of us are not becoming one with our spouse because of this stuff that you and I are talking about. And so when we can help detach that, and sometimes with the men, it is like, I need you to stop doing this behavior, right? This behavior, and all of a sudden the fear and goes away from the wife. She becomes more safe. And all of a sudden he's like, it's like, dude, she's wild. She's asking me to go meet her in the closet all the time. And she's like, I've never like, I don't know what's she on drugs or something? Like what's she got? No, dude, she's just not scared for her life. Not fear like you're going to beat her, but just
Right.
fear of judgment, fear of like a lot. Cause
Yeah.
women can, I think, deal with that more, but that's just some small examples of what can come undone by just having like, dude, we're going to ask some uncomfortable questions and I need some honest answers. And if you give me a BS answer, I'm going to poke and prod into your soul because I can read it.
And you could feel the energy when somebody's like, I could see it in a room. I already, again, it's like a natural
Yeah.
superpower, but you could read the room, you know who's playing what role, and you just want to like shake them and
Yeah.
say, it's
I'm like,
okay.
I'll tell them, hey, are you done lying? When are you going to, I'd love for you to tell me the truth. When are you going to stop lying? Right. And it's like, right. And
Yeah.
just start asking them that, okay,
Yeah.
well, I appreciate that, but you ready to stop lying and look, can we have a
Right.
true conversation?
Can't do it. I can't like,
Go into something. Yeah. It's
yeah.
wild.
No, I do. It has to be genuine. And if it's any degree of in like not authentic, I can feel it immediately, and I'm like, okay, let's just put it on the table and get to it. But thing with the masculine, feminine energy, we touched on it. It is so huge. It's safety. So that's the number one thing.
Yes.
Women, if they don't feel safe, and people like you just mentioned are not that somebody's like, gonna take us a gunpoint or something like that.
It's just
It's a
judgment.
safety. You just know so there could be distance for months and you could feel safe with somebody without worrying what they're doing. You just have
Yeah.
to be consistent and show up consistently.
It's
Yeah.
an authentic version of you. I
Yes.
feel like when I feel that's an energy like you talked about. When I feel you're being this vulnerable, open, transparent version of you, I got all the trust in the world. And most people are not. And it's not like they're cheating or like they
Right.
got some side text going on. It's that they're just scared to reveal parts of themselves. And because they're scared to reveal, the energy just says like, you're not good enough, you're not safe enough, I can't trust you. And we feel, and then we both do it. And then we both feel the same thing. And so like with my wife and I was
That's
like,
right.
we weren't worried about infidelity or any weird stuff. It was just like being transparent, being like, hey, you can tell me that that bothers you, and I'm not going to rip your head off or try to prove you wrong. Like we can be able to have that. And then all of a sudden it's like, everything opens up and then this whole new version of us comes free, like you said, who were born to be, right? And it just is amazing, and more of it has to happen in marriages, relationships, business partners, all those things. like
In the
like if you
world.
I talk
Yeah.
about intimacy and business partners. We're like, what? I'm like, no, you guys aren't making out. I mean, you need to
Yeah.
be able to trust in each other's energy. You will feel if there's
Mhm.
walls created or if there's transparency, and it needs to be safe to where this person can share and you can share and we can understand it and seek to understand each other versus prove each other wrong and all these other things that we're taught in society to do because we don't know any better. Right. And it's just generationally or society based, just terrible communication and connection, lack of connection. And it causes all of this stuff that
It's
sounds
yeah,
like you and I have a passion to help solve.
yeah, this is my heart and soul. Like it's like this I call it a superpower, but it's really simple. It's anybody can do it. I tell my friends, like literally in this moment, like in the present moment, I'm big about being present too. Anybody knows if they're around me and they got phones and they're looking at their like it drives me crazy.
Yeah.
Or if they're, not locked in. But I'm like, if you are present in the moment, no matter what you do, be present with somebody. In that moment, you can change your life. Like right now. I can't do it from the past. I can't do it from the future because who knows? I'm going to do it in the present. But if you're not, nothing really
Yeah.
has power to it. Somebody who's present in the moment is powerful because you're
It's
locked
an
in.
energy.
It's an energy. You can feel it. And that's when when you're vulnerable and you're open and you're caring with somebody, they feel that safety immediately calms down that nervous system, which a lot of this stuff is that fight or flight is that I was wired like that for a while too. I didn't realize it, but being in the profession that I'm in, right? ER calls in the middle of the night and just doing more and more and more, you're wired, women especially, we're not wired for that, constant masculine energy. Our nervous system is always on fight or flight and we burn out and we get exhausted. But once we settle that down, that's a whole other topic with, I call it boss bitch.
Yeah.
Like the girls
Yeah.
that want to like prove everything. I'm like, you don't have
And
to
it's
prove
like,
anything.
yeah,
It's
you don't want to be that.
exhausting.
That's
Just
not
if you
good.
wanna do it, great, but don't do it
You
because
gotta
you
be,
think you have to prove it.
yeah, being in your feminine and be free where it's like where you're kind of called to be. And it's not wrong to
Yeah,
be in the masculine, but if you're in the masculine because of something negative, it's not a place to be. And again, it's what we learn and it becomes behavior patterns that we just continue over and over and over and over. And then we can make excuses to say, well, I'm in the ER and I got to do it. And it's like, I hear you, but you got to be able to walk away from that when you walk out of the door
right.
and some of those things. And no one teaches how to do that work. Right. Even
Yeah,
like me leaving my office, like when you and I are done, we wrap this up and I leave my office, like I'm going to do a little breath work to pull me out of this long day of doing stuff so my son and I are going to go to the gym so I can be present and I can fully listen to him and what on his heart, not thinking about the email I got to send or the other thing or the conversation and it's hard because we're not taught to do it. Like we have to literally train. It is hard work, intentional work to be able to do it and do it well. And I love that, like, you just have a passion and you have the credentials to teach people how to do that. And I would love the opportunity, what would be if someone's listening to this right now and they're like, man, I'd love to connect with Dr. Chelsea. What's the best way for them to do that? I'd like to, and we'll add all this contact information and where to follow you, social media and the show notes and everything. But you want to share anything like that before we hop off?
sure. Again, it'll be on the Neurodoc, which is my Instagram. I have a course that should be out in January, beginning of January. And it is either one-to-one or a group format for 8 weeks. And long story short, it's the Neuroquantum identity shift. So it's that neurology and ancient wisdom, spirituality, psychology in a blender. Basically, it's people that are stuck, people that maybe have achieved all the things, are successful, they have everything on paper. They might have a great family, but they're not feeling it. They're either detached, they're feeling empty, they don't know why, they're not getting fulfillment.
Yeah.
It shows
Fulfillment.
up in different ways, but there's something nagging at their soul that just they cannot find the answer. And those people that have tried everything because they are successful, they're using their mind to reason their way out of it, logic, self-awareness. It's not going to break you out of this. They tried it.
Yes.
It is all the things that we talked about. It's going to, your limiting beliefs that are driving 95% in your subconscious. It's going back to inner child wounds that you don't even remember there. You don't have to live there, but we're going to heal them and integrate them so they don't interfere with your life anymore or trigger you. And
Yes.
healing your nervous system, which is a big part of trauma. We carry it, even though in the mind we know what patterns we shouldn't do, but we do them, again,
Still do it. Yep,
self-sabotage,
still do it.
procrastination, right? And so it's all that, and then learning how to release trapped energy. So it's going back and combining all those things. And then meditation, like you have to change your lifestyle. A lot of people want a quick fix.
Yeah,
Doesn't
they
work.
want the
It's a
pill. That's
lifestyle.
why the big pharma's been so successful. They all want the pill
It's a
versus the
lifestyle.
pop.
Like you said, breath work. I have a whole thing. Breath work on demand. When you're stressed out, you go there. And then you do it throughout the day as well. And, the grounding and the meditations. And then, you have to live your entire life in alignment with who you are. You can't pick and choose what boxes in life you're going to show up
Because then
like
you're
that.
outside of integrity, right? When you're outside of
Yes.
integrity, you're being a liar. And then when know you're being a liar to yourself, you dip
And that's more
into
shame.
guilt and shame. And then you're stuck. Like so many people are stuck in guilt and shame. It's so sad. Once you see it, once you're like, holy crap, everybody's walking around just guilty and shame because of all the things they're not doing or the things they did do and it like when you can rid someone from that, game changer. And you'll look younger and healthier and happier and beautiful like you
Once,
have to do all that stuff as well.
absolutely. You can see it in facial
Well,
expressions.
oh yeah. And so we'll include all that in the show notes. I love what you're doing. You're amazing, wonderful doctor, soul person, and friend. Look forward to next time whenever I get to see it, probably out at the Elliott function. But thanks for coming on the show. Thanks for being such an amazing guest. Thanks for sharing so much wisdom today and being vulnerable and sharing your story. I think, again, we're creating the groundwork. Someone that may be able to hear this, hey, we're creating a container maybe for some other people to have some conversation that it's going to help set them free just from this episode. I believe it.
Absolutely.
And I'm thanking God for the opportunity to do that here with you today. And for all the listeners, please like, follow, share, subscribe to this episode, and follow Dr. Chelsea. We'll have all our information in the show notes to this episode. I'm Adam Lamb. This is the 1% Doctor Podcast. Thank you and have a blessed day. Thanks so much for tuning in to this episode of the 1% Doctor. Please be sure to subscribe to the show where you're able to consume more podcasts, get more value, and learn more about doctors potentially just like you. Please tell a friend, review the show, and we'll see you in the next episode.